Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor live from Palm Beach. And that's where I've been for quite some time. And the people in Arizona finally figured it out. Wow. We'll see if they can figure out how to conduct an election fairly and honestly. But we'll be all over that a little later on this year. But we'll be all over it from now because we don't forget. We just apply what we learn so that we don't make the same mistake twice. Well, people make the same mistake many, many times with Michael Cohen, which is they believe him. Today, again, Michael Cohen was made into a total raving, stupid, maniacal liar that only the most base of prosecutors would possibly rely on. Southern District of New York threw him out. Institutionally will not rely on him. He's too incredible. This dumb case, remember the case is a dumb case, totally dumb. Case has two parts to it. False statement in order to commit a felony. The false statement is legal expense. Now, nobody else can testify to what that is except the liar Cohen. And for that case to go out, you could even believe him if you want. He says the payments were for the money from McDonald, for money they owed him, for technological expenses that he laid out money for, and technological work that he did for them. Remember, he's their lawyer. For other work that he did for them, he took a reimbursement of $50,000 for something that he paid for on the Trump organization's behalf. But he cheated on that because, as he admitted during cross-examination, he stole 30 grand of that. In other words, he was supposed to pay $50,000 back. He's supposed to pay back $20,000. He told them it was 50. They gave him 50 and he kept 30. This is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a man of no character at all. None. So this is what the lawyer did to him. And the lawyer caught him in one lie a minute, which made last week really interesting. Today, he had a couple more big lies, including admitting that he stole from the Trump organization. He finally just had to, did you steal from the Trump organization? Yes, I did. Did you lie after you cooperated with the government and promised not to lie? Yeah, yes. Did you lie under oath after you decided to cooperate with the government? Turn in Mr. Trump for things he didn't do. Did you continue to lie about other things? Yes, he did. Were you convicted mostly of crimes you committed, not anything you did with Mr. Trump? Yeah, that's right. In fact, the one thing that you did with Mr. Trump turns out not to be a crime, right? That campaign contribution is just not a crime. Isn't that right? Yeah, that's right. So your crimes really were with other people, not with Mr. Trump. Yeah, that's right. I don't think they asked him how many times he lied before and after he cooperated, because the government wants to say this, and the state wants to say this. He was once a really bad liar. I mean, everybody knows that. His own book says it. But then, when something happened, this was not an intervention by the angel Gabriel, I believe, or by Muhammad, Moses, or Jesus. But somehow he decided he was going to tell the truth. Might be when he didn't get the job he wanted in the White House. Yeah, that could be when it happened. And he was bitter because he's got the mind of maybe a 12-year-old, and he's got the conscience of a no-year-old, because even children have a conscience. He's what you call, oh gosh, Ted, we used to call these guys rat fakes. He's a rat. I mean, he's a guy that anything goes wrong. Teacher, he did it. Teacher, he did it. But he probably did it.
Yep. Yeah.
But Hope Hicks got it right. Hope Hicks said, he had to do a lot of fixing, didn't he? And Hope Hicks said, yeah, he did. We had to fix all the things that he screwed up. And she wasn't particularly a 100% witness, right? So after he was finished, the state rested its case. Any judge, but the poster boy for crooked judges, Judge Merchan, would have dismissed this case. But the Democratic Party wouldn't allow acting Judge Merchan to dismiss this case, nor would his daughter tolerate it, because she's still got, I don't know, she got bucks on the table here by going after Trump. He wasn't even fazed by the fact that I don't know what the name of the commission is, the New York Judicial Commission on Fixing Cases for Crooked Judges, opined that he shouldn't be really punished, even though it's an absolute, flat-out, red-letter violation for a judge to give a campaign contribution. And he did to Biden, the guy on the other side of this case. They gave him another... There's a judge around for 23 years. Judge, don't do it anymore, Judge, because next time we have a case on a Democrat, on a Republican we want you to fix, we don't want any kind of conflict. I mean, we'll let you get by here with the worst conflicts in New York legal history. Next time, we'd rather not have any conflicts. It isn't just that you contributed to Trump, but you hid a contribution. You also contributed to stop Trump, which shows you like Biden and you hate Trump. Kind of hard, to let you get by without a recusal, but we want this guy convicted so badly. We would take a second coming of one of those German or Soviet judges, frankly. And gosh, you're about as unfair in you can't get more unfair in your rulings than you do. So we couldn't do any better. So we are very pleased with you. You never rule in Trump's favor. You make absurd, ridiculous rulings. You haven't dismissed a case, even though the prosecutor hasn't charged a crime yet. Usually they do it when they file the indictment. We're almost at the end of the trial, and we don't know the felony that Trump is alleged to have committed. But at some point, you're going to tell us, right, Judge? I mean, or is it? This may be very interesting. You have a new way of doing it in this sort of combination of fascist communist system. The jury, which will do anything you want because New York is 99% out of this world, crazy Trump derangement Democrat, right? He even voted for de Blasio twice. I mean, what can you expect? Maybe the idea is it's easier on appeal if they find him guilty of a felony. This was done in pursuance of a felony. What turned out to be the true statement was written down in pursuance of a felony. But we'll fill in the felony later so there can't be any confusion that the jury got it wrong. We won't tell the jury what felony. The judge will fill in the blank. But you got about 2,000 you can choose from, Judge. I mean, if this ridiculous campaign contribution thing doesn't work, and they find out that you're a state judge and you can't charge federal crimes, maybe you could pick something like when he put it down, he was going to evade his parking tickets. I've heard that. People there are some witnesses. I think Stormy Daniels and that woman, who got sexually assaulted in the busiest department store in New York at the height of the day in a little space by the most famous man in New York that everyone recognized. She has some friends that are willing to lie for you. So it's about the way it's going to go. But the defense tried to get the case dismissed in any other courtroom in America, England, or other vaguely civilized countries, the case would be dismissed because they haven't proved anything. They've actually proved that the false statement is true. All those different things add up to legal expenses. And just in case Judge Mershon needs to be reminded, the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it was false. It produced no witness that supports that it was false, not even Cohen. Because when Cohen described what he did, it amounts to legal expenses. Remember, Trump didn't write that. The accountant came up with the best he could do in terms of a generic description or a general description of what 4 or 5 different things were. Hardly proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the word legal expenses is false. So now we have a no crime chasing a crime. We have a no crime committed, true statement, for the purpose of committing a felony, but we don't know what the felony is. Our best guess is it's a federal campaign violation. You wouldn't allow the witness on the stand today who would say it isn't. You excluded that witness. Then when another witness named Robert Costello came on and started scoring points against your protected witness, Cohen, that the Democrat Party wants you to protect for them. That's part of the deal of keeping you on the bench for 22 or 23 years when they can't seem to get you elected. I guess you're not a particularly attractive candidate. Even Engoron got elected. I know, not the way we do in a democracy with opponents, but the way we do in the democratic dictatorship in New York, 3 times with no opponents. But they don't even put you up with no opponents. Maybe they thought there'd be a negative vote. So you're really an acting judge. Imagine picking an acting judge for a historic case against a former president, never before done. They couldn't even come up with a real state Supreme Court justice elected maybe in a contested election. I don't know if they have one. I don't think they have a Republican. This is a democratic dictatorship in Manhattan run by Keith Wright, whose father set him loose. Bruce Wright was a notorious contributor to the crime of the decade of the 70s and 80s, at least according to Mayor Edward Aycoch or Edward Arkoch. I should remember, but I don't remember that one. So Costello testified to the extent that he could that he tried to that Cohen tried to get him as a lawyer. That Cohen was that Cohen claimed to be suicidal. He's one of a few witnesses now that claim that Cohen was suicidal, and that he did say he had no evidence against Trump, that he did present a very credible picture of how he was the one who came up with the money. And then he had an email he was going to put into evidence that corroborated everything that he said, and that corroborated the original story, which backs up the fact that the man on trial is innocent. The judge went bonkers crazy, lost it. He started claiming, "Why are you trying to stare me down? Why are you trying to stare me down?" Now, remember the construction of a courtroom in Manhattan. He sits all the way up high. The one good thing about Mershon is he does not, like Engoron, have a law clerk sitting on his lap. He sits by himself there. Maybe nobody will sit with him. I don't know. He is only an acting judge, of course. I forgot that. In order for Costello to be staring him down, he would have to have turned around in his seat and looked up at him for 4 minutes or something. Like this. Like, ask me a question, Ted.
Oh, so where were you on the night of May 4th?
I was speaking to
your eyes at me, Mr. Costello.
I'm staring right at you. And I'm not looking at the lawyer. I'm not looking at the defendants. I'm not looking at the witnesses. I'm just looking at you, Judge, because I think you're so handsome.
Well, the judge apparently.
I can tell you one thing. Bob Costello is not like Judge Crooked. He's a very, very distinguished lawyer. He represented George Steinbrenner. He represented Leona Helmsley. He was trained from the very early days as a Fordham Law School by one of the great lawyers in New York, me. He was a very, very fine assistant U.S. attorney, chief of the criminal division. He worked with me on an act of heroism. If it wasn't for him and me, there'd be no hard drive. Not the New York Post. Thank you, New York Post, for publishing it after we pressured you, and thank you for having Madame Devine, Madame Devine, and Mr. Levine, and a couple of others who they were ballsy as hell. But at the top, there was a great deal of bedwetting. And but you got through it, and I will not in any way hold that against you. I do hold it against you that you very often create the impression you got it on your own, and you like to keep my name out because I'm too close to Trump, and you're trying to hurt Trump. But I know what you're doing. I know what you're all doing. That's why you want to put me in jail, because you want to get rid of me because I know what you're all doing. And none of you have decent motives like let's help the United States, except for the ones I mentioned, like Miranda and Levine, and they do. There's some good ones. Right. Michael Goodwin, my friend Carl Campanile.
Henry, you're saying.
I hope I don't get them fired.
You're just doing the New York Post right now. I was going to start throwing out.
We can throw it on the name. I'm just doing the New York Post. I can't do all the rest.
Hank, I'm saying Hammer and Hank, Henry Rogers, the Daily Caller.
Oh, come on, we got there are a lot.
Cara Castronueva.
Oh, well, there are a lot, but I mean the Post just plays a little game here. Not nearly as bad as the Wall Street Journal. So Costello, they break up the thing with Costello, and the judge is in like a massive, I don't know, psychosomatic. You're staring at me. It's like I remember when I was a bartender, the guy, my father used to call him the pugilistic drunk. He would come into the bar and say, "What are you looking at? What are you looking at? What are you looking at, Costello?" "Judge, I'm looking at the lawyer. I'm not looking at." "What are you looking at, Costello? What do you think, I'm crooked?
Well,
do you think I'm here just because I'm a Democrat?
Yeah.
You're looking down on me because I'm an acting judge? Never been really appointed or really elected? Everybody else has except me? You know about the contributions I hid? They're out now. They caught me. I bet you think I have a conflict, Costello. That's why you're looking at me. Just because I donated to the other side, and I donated and I put up some money to stop the defendant. That's a conflict? Just my hating him is a conflict? Come on, Costello, stop looking at me. Judge, it's impossible for me to look at you. I'm looking straight at you. You're behind me. I don't believe it, Judge. I don't know how to tell you this, but most us humans don't have eyes in the back of our heads, except maybe the ones you talk to. Wow. You see, I think this guy is going through the guilty conscience part of being known now. You know, among the liberals and all, he's like, wow, wonderful. But among conservatives and moderates, this guy is the quintessential crooked judge. This is what they mean by fixed case, fixed judge you can buy, judge you can push around and do anything with. And they think of them as being very much concentrated in New York. And very much concentrated in Manhattan, the home of political corruption. They're right. Take it from a lifetime New Yorker. We got you beat on corruption. Just take a look at our budget. Why do you think the budget of our state is twice Florida? And they have 3 million more people? Because we pay more by 2 to 1, probably, than the states. Because we need more room for graft, otherwise known as bribery. We have like interesting names for it. We have some honest people. We do. We try to protect them very hard. They try to protect them, yeah. On the bench on political cases, you're not going to get them. You might get them in other cases. On political cases, I'm sorry. If you go to the Manhattan Supreme Court, they're going to go Democrat, or they ain't going to be there very long. And now we go to tomorrow, and we'll see if anyone else testifies. They have one more hour with Costello. Costello has dynamite testimony to offer if one just looks at his testimony under oath. Definitive testimony that Cohen is a complete, absolute liar, which is not even in doubt. This case never should have been brought. It is a disgrace, and it should be dismissed if we want to have any chance of saving American justice. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, let's do a little talking about the debate that's going to come up, and the pros and cons of it, and just what it means, and then a couple of other things as well. We will be right back. And if I put my name on something, I truly believe in it. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to something I'm incredibly proud of. My own brand of organic specialty coffee, Rudy Coffee. Believe me when I say it's the best coffee you'll ever try. It's smooth, rich, chocolatey, and gentle on your stomach. It's so good, I even recommend drinking it black. It comes in 3 varieties, including what I promise is the best decaf you'll ever have. You can order now by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting rudy.coffee. By supporting Rudy Coffee, you're not just treating yourself to exceptional coffee, you're also supporting our cause, the cause of truth, justice, and American democracy. You'll also be supporting the Call to Action nonprofit, which is devoted to helping veterans and first responders, so you can make a difference and taste the difference by ordering today at rudy.coffee. Oh, testing my coffee. I only have 2 bags here. We gave one away to a friend. We'll get another one. This is the morning coffee. This is what I had this morning. Rudy's morning coffee. This is the bold coffee, and we gave away the decaffeinated. So there's the morning. There's the bowl from which you can do espresso if you want. I'll show you how. In fact, at various times along, I'm going to show you how to do all of this because I make my own coffee. It's one of my few things that I can do that's domestic. And I've been doing it for about 6 years, getting the beans, mixing them, grinding them, putting them in, figuring out the temperature. Let me tell you just a little bit about this because it's interesting. You know, coffee, we have found now is much better for your health than we ever thought when our parents told us it would keep us short. Someone told Barron that. This coffee is what we call organic coffee. The thing wrong with coffee, like everything else, preservatives, all kinds of stuff in it to preserve it, and all kinds of stuff in it to cheaply enhance its taste or whatever. Or instead of relying on aging the beans and whatever, just take some Robusto beans, cheap Robusto beans, and they'll give you a nice little bang, but they'll also give you a very, very burning stomach, which I think all of you have probably experienced if you drink coffee. Gosh, 70% of it is going to be crap coffee. Crap coffee is coffee that is mostly Robusto. Robusto is the coffee that you're going to get in most places. The more Arabica coffee beans in your coffee, the better it's going to be. And the very best thing to do is to have it be all Arabica, which this is, all organic, and all of it processed without using any extra chemicals or preservatives or any of this other crap. Then you're going to get all the maximum health benefits out of it, and you're not going to get added additional problems that come from the things they put in. Each one of these coffees is like that. I've watched them get made. We're going to have some commercials where we show you how they're made. Morning coffee, bold coffee, And then there are many people who have to or like decaffeinated. So we have a decaffeinated brand also. And about that, we don't use preservatives and chemicals and all sorts of things to jigger up the decaffeinated. We use a water process, which I also have a nice little commercial that'll show you how we do that. And get some and let me know what you think. And are there things you like? Because we're very these are all come from small farms that we work with. We're going to continue to work with them. So we want to make some tweaks in it. We'll make some tweaks in it. But let's try this for a little while and see what we think. The morning coffee, the bold coffee, and the decaffeinated coffee. I don't usually drink decaffeinated coffee, but I like this decaffeinated coffee. And maybe it's because it isn't made with all those. And since I've been drinking my own coffee that I grind myself, which I've been doing long before this, for 5 years, I don't use any sugar, any substitute, or even any milk in my coffee because I like the taste of it. This is like going to be you're going to like this taste. And there are ways of brewing it to change the taste, within degrees. The debate is all one-sided. Trump negotiated for nothing. We were all a little upset. We all thought he should negotiate meaning all his big supporters and friends and all. We all thought he should negotiate for home court, for home on home. How about you come to Newsmax or something like that, and be exposed to a couple of their they're very gentle people. No, he's got to go to Jake. I hate Trump Tapper, right? And maybe Tapper will be embarrassed and he'll attempt to be fair. When he gets fair, his throat gets hoarse. You can hear it because he has to strain so hard because he hates Trump so much. Luckily, they'll be a little further apart than when they used to have interviews close to each other. And the guy would get all screwed up in his questioning because the hatred would come just right out of his eyes. And whoever else is with him from CNN, they go, come on. You can see that Trump really doesn't care. Doesn't care. I mean, he's already won the debate. When the guy tells you, when he says, I'll debate you anyway, you pick the place, you pick the instruments, you pick the time of day. I'll do it in your basement if you want. He's really just doing it to humiliate him. But not really humiliate him, to show he should not be president of the United States. It's a disgrace that he's president of the United States. He's embarrassing us as president of the United States. I'm sure they'll shoot him up like crazy, and he'll look the best he can. Each time it's a little less. I think he should be drug tested because we should know. We all suspect, all of us except people who are indoctrinated, brainwashed Democrats, that the guy is, in Lululand and he needs drugs to bring him back. I'm thinking it's some form of Ritalin that makes him concentrate, and some very strong form of Ritalin, because I do notice that during the State of the Union speech and a couple of these other special occasions, those eyes are wide open. Wow. And when you usually see him bumping around, where he can't remember that somebody's dead, or he can't remember that his father's been dead, or he thinks his son died on the battlefield, or his eyes are like this. You can hardly see them. And then all of a sudden, when they, it's like when they get Frankenstein out of the casket and pump the blood into him, all of a sudden his eyes are like this. But he's very, very hyper, isn't he? Like yelling through the State of the Union speech. Now, except for the fact that it was Joe Biden and people thought he was going to collapse, no American president giving a speech where he yells from beginning to end is going to get plaudits, but he did. He did from the paid-for group, and he did from the group that was actually surprised. Boy, he can actually. But it did start to tail off at the end. Trump says a half hour. I think it's a little longer than that. And I think if he does it, if he's getting all his own terms, I mean, if I were Trump, I'd offer him intravenous if he wants it if he really does need the Ritalin that badly. We want him to be able to make sense. His policies are so stupid. We want him to explain them. Maybe if he's demented, he'll get away with explaining just why he gave away Bagram Air Base to the Chinese, only 400 miles from China, and we got nothing. We got nothing in return. He got a lot in return, but we didn't get anything in return, meaning America. In fact, when he went to negotiate in Iraq, we got nothing in return. We got screwed. We were thrown out, and a lot of people got killed. Brother James got about 20% of a $1.5 million contract for housing, because he knows nothing about housing, but he knows a lot about how to get his brother to fix it for Iraq and to screw the United States, which is what happened. Same thing with China. When he went to China, he was supposed to get them the hell out of the Japanese Sea, cut down on their intrusions there, to go a little easier on Taiwan, cut down on the military spending so we didn't get into a big contest there. We did really well there. They quadrupled their forces up north. They went from having the second or third largest Navy in the world since Joe went there and talked to them. Now they're the first. And of course, they now fly over Taiwan almost every day since Trump is out of office. So he not only didn't accomplish anything, much like in Iraq, he failed utterly. But 10 days later, his son got a commitment for $1 billion for a private equity fund. That was obviously a very worthy one, although nobody else seemed to think so because nobody else invested. It included him, the completely incompetent and useless son of John Kerry, about finance at least, Devin Archer, who's going off to jail for cheating Native Americans. And then, of course, you didn't know this because this is hidden from you. That would be the nephew of Whitey Bulger, one of the major organized criminals of his day. What he is doing on that board is amazing. And the fact that it was not deemed newsworthy to present to you shows you how crooked our news sources are, including some of our conservative ones. And then, of course, we come to Ukraine, where he pulls down anywhere from 8 to 20 million in order to fix the Burisma case. And who knows what else? Oh, you know who knows what else? Zelensky. He could tell you what else. And he probably does tell Joe what else every time he wants another couple bill. And that might explain why we sent that money there without an inspector general. Did you know that? That we've given well over $140 billion, $14 billion to Israel, well over $140 billion to Ukraine to fight to a draw. Seems like we want to fight for the purpose of fighting and for the purpose of sending money. Could that be? What was the plan presented, by the way, for this last $60 billion that a bipartisan group of Democrats and Republicans voted for or disgraced themselves voting for without an inspector general? Disgraceful because not only is it wasting the hard-earned taxpayers' dollars of Americans who are not in great shape right now, but it's screwing the Ukrainian people because it's empowering their criminals. If you give large sums of money to Ukraine, I will swear as an expert witness that money is going to, commissions are going to be taken out of that money long before it gets to the people, because the Ukraine is a thoroughly corrupt government, and at the upper level, thoroughly corrupt society. The president is the fair-haired boy, the creation of one of the most crooked people in Ukraine, a man named Kolomoisky, who ran Bank Privat, which was the main money laundering center. Between the two of them, they could probably tell you all of the offshore bank accounts used by crooked politicians that do business with Ukraine. Wow. Wow. That's why they get a lot of Republicans and Democrats, right? They don't get it because they want to win the war, because they don't demand a plan to win the war. They don't get it because they want to be sure it actually gets to the front lines, because they don't demand an inspector general. They just get it. Some gets to the front lines. A majority? Maybe. Less than a majority? Maybe. Do the oligarchs take a big chunk of it? Of course. What are we, children? I'm not. They are. No, they're not children. They're evil people. You want to save the people of Ukraine. You do what Biden was supposed to do when he went there, which is you help reestablish that government. You make it honest. You require it that it be honest, the way it has been done for some countries that are into the EU. All he did is make it more corrupt by entering into the corruption with the president. This guy has done nothing for the United States except hurt it and take a fortune for him and his family. It's got to be one of the most evil stories in American history about an American president. Even to the extent that we sent condolences to the reign of terror today on the death of Ebrahim Raisi. Now, Ebrahim Raisi was the president of Iran, known before that as the butcher of Iran. He was their second most notorious murderer. The other most notorious murder was bombed by Donald Trump with objections from Joe Robinette, Biden sitting in his basement, cheering for the reign of terror and the terrorists. And nobody else in the world objected to it except him. He and Obama have got a evil, satanic pact with the reign of terror. I know those are strong words, but when did an American president ever give cash in the millions and hundreds of millions hidden from the American people, sent by airplane to an avowed terrorist who kills Jews because he's sworn to it, and then is always making clear, as the Iranian people following him do, that their number two goal is to kill Americans. I might say here, I take a pit of personal privilege. They've twice attempted to kill me. I'm not Jewish. I love the Jewish people. Well, maybe I am half Jewish. I'll tell you that story sometime. But in any event, they tried to kill me and Madame Rajavi once, and then they tried to kill me and numerous other people, including Newt Gingrich and world leaders from different countries and Madame Rajavi in Paris. Both of those cases have been adjudicated. I think that, the very, very brave French, took them to trial and have sent them back to Iran. So they're sort of like, France is like institutionally like Soros prosecutors. The others were tried, I think, in Albania or Denmark, and they served some real time. But they're getting some pressure to release them now by Iran, and they're starting to cave in because without Trump around, bolstering up the anti-Iranian factor, everything moves towards Iran. I mean, Biden's in love with Iran. He's funding them. Trump had them on the balls of their ass. I used to see through Madame Rajavi, I would get to see the videotapes from right inside Iran. I could actually talk to the people in Iran. People were walking around with signs like, "Get rid of the Ayatollah." Can you imagine that in a dictatorship like that? How about "We love Trump"? They never got to the stage of "Let's go Brandon," but I bet I get them to carry those. I would suspect they hate the guy. They hated Biden because Biden turned his back on them when they tried to revolt during Biden's administration. And rather than being Ronald Reagan and patting them on the back like Ronald Reagan did with Solidarity, what did he do? He turned his back on them and embraced the Islamic terrorists that he seems to care for more. It may be the reason why he banned saying Islamic extremist when he was president, hoping that we would forget. What else does Obama have to do to prove to you the premise of what I said once and was harshly condemned for? He does not love America. You don't give cash to a terrorist whose one of two main objectives is to kill Americans and who used that money to kill Americans. In fact, if you do that in a fair America, in the America we all believe we grew up in, you go to jail. You might even get hung. I didn't send the cash to the Ayatollah. He did. And he hid it. And it is a tragedy that that man is walking around now a billionaire as a result of what he did. Because Iran might be crushed by now if it weren't for Barry Obama and Dodo. And you might make fun of them and laugh about them, but what they've done with Iran is extremely dangerous, and it's at the core of all the double-crossing of Israel. Not too many people will tell you that. I will. And you know, not too many people will tell you about the 2020 election. Certainly not the people on WABC, which is why you're watching me now, and you're going to watch me in much larger numbers, because you're going to send a message to WABC that you want news that comes out about the 2020 election, because it might help prevent cheating in the 2024 election. News like, 375,000 ballots are missing in Georgia. News like 3,000 ballots were discovered double counted. News like Raffensperger, the guy behind the telephone call with Trump, which was an absolutely legal call, which he twisted around. Raffensperger has now been removed from the election commission, with the attorney general being asked, is it because of his conduct, to which the lieutenant governor said, well, since we've had him, we haven't had a good election. We haven't had an election without serious problems. I think maybe the worm is turning, but don't you think the American people should know that when it happens? Or do you think it should be suppressed, like it is suppressed by the crooked press and like the radio station that I work for, where in the first paragraph of the letter to me, it said that I was not permitted to have any conversations about the 2020 election, either on WABC or as an agent of WABC. I just want you to know how serious and how far the censorship has gone in this country. That one shocked me, but I'm not walking away from it. And I'm not keeping my mouth shut about it until it ends, until that station and everyone reports on election irregularities of that magnitude and doesn't hide them so the Democrats can do them again. We'll be right back.
We're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our Mypillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Okay. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. Here we are on a very busy Monday. The mayor is deep. He's reading even during commercial breaks. He never stops working.
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened with the butcher of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, who was killed on Sunday morning when his helicopter crashed in a remote area of Iran. He was 63. He oversaw mass executions of political prisoners in the 1980s. Now, those were mostly there disposing of their former allies, which is not uncommon for communists and revolutionaries, which is why the people who are seem to be enabling this Chinese takeover, who want to do the one world thing, like Klaus Schwab and George Soros, better watch out, because when China, which is looking at them very carefully and saying, thank you for doing this for us, because you ain't going to have a navy and you ain't going to have an army and you're not going to have 1.4 billion people. When they say, okay, boys, now we take over, first ones they'll get rid of were the rats who helped. So that's what Iran did. I mean, I'll tell you the history of the whole revolution again if you want. I have a podcast on it, but it was five or six groups who did it. One group took over at the end, and of that 5 or 6 groups, easily 3 or 4 of them were really pretty, wanted a liberal democracy or a monarchical democracy or a straight some kind of democracy. The only one who wanted a religious dictatorship, an insane religious dictatorship, were the followers of the Ayatollah, and they organized for months and months and months, convinced all of the nice, naive people like we have in America that he'd come back and just be a nice, quiet little popey type in Qom, which is the religious village in Iraq. And he came back all right, but he never made it to Qom because riots broke out all over Iran, planned for about 8 months without their knowing. And within a short period of time, everybody was deposed. The Ayatollah was in charge. It was a government with a supreme leader. It was a religious government. It was the Islamic Republic of Iran. It was dedicated to one religion. It was dedicated to the spread of that religion throughout the world. And then over a period of the next couple of years, they murdered hundreds of thousands of people, probably millions of people. Of the group that I'm the closest to, they're documented at least 120,000 were killed during this period. And Raisi was the major executioner. He liked it as a young, he was sort of like a John Gotti. There were organized crime people who do murder because they have to, and when they don't have to, they get out of it. And there are people who like murder. Raisi was always well known as somebody who liked murder, which is why the Ayatollah brought him in now with sissy boy Biden around so they could take advantage of him. He wanted a real tough guy to match up against sissy boy, and he really got one. I mean, Biden's not a match for anybody. I mean, actually, he could have picked one of his sissy boys, and he would have walked all over Biden. So there's Iran, right here. So you see that Tehran is really very much ensconced within Iran. It's not like right on the border near Iraq or near Saudi Arabia. It's up toward the north, near the Caspian Sea, not terribly far from Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, not far from Turkey, and with a good relationship with Turkey, one might add. An increasingly good relationship with Syria. Iraq had been the buffer because they were at war for 7 years, Iraq and Iran. To give you an idea that Iran's army is not the one to fear the most in the world, this was a 7-year draw. This was a 7-year draw in this between them. But not that far from Israel. Huh? And look at the size of Israel. Their mortal enemy, going back to before all of this, the Arabs, the Persians. Now we're going back to the history they don't teach anymore, ancient history. People at Harvard and Columbia and places, they don't learn this. They learn things like, do I want to be a girl or a boy? Stuff like that. How do you make sure that nobody loses a game? Let's have pass or fail for our law review because everybody got shook up over the protests and they couldn't concentrate on their studies because while they were either protesting or while everybody else was protesting, they were partying. But when we used to go to school, you learn things like geography, stuff like that. I know these people don't know. I mean, as the people that Ted interviewed, most of them don't even know why they're protesting. This might be a time we could help them, Ted. Just things like,
see, attention, learn something.
You see this right here? See? This little, I make it bigger on the other map for you because I don't want you kids to get, but this is the river to the sea. This is what they mean by river to sea. They mean they want to take all of Israel. It has an ancient, it has a meaning, by the way. This is not when it was first used. So when you're using it, it has a meaning. It means the Palestinians want to destroy Israel. The river is called the Jordan. Now, I don't expect that you know that that's the river where Jesus, first went and met with John the Baptist. And you know who Jesus is, right? You Harvard students. Oh, yeah, yes, right. He's the one that you all hate because he's God and you all don't believe in God. Because you're all, like Karl Marx told you, smarter than God. But you see, God knows the river to the sea means Jordan to the Mediterranean. And most of you, about 70%, don't, which tells me you are freaking uneducated. Snobby jackasses. So the butcher of Tehran is now gone. The 85-year-old Imam Saeed Ali Khamenei, well, he is 85. We have no indications of what kind of condition he's in because he doesn't like Biden. He doesn't go out much. No question, he's a monster. He's one of these people that's on the list of top 5 for killing your own people. He's a religious fanatic. Although some people believe that unlike the original Khomeini is a bit more of an opportunist. And that his mullahs have turned into like mafia captains. But in any event, they use religion to keep to whip the people under control. The people are not very much under control. In every nook and cranny of that country you see behind me, between 17 and 20 and up to 21, there were protests in almost every single city with support from dissident groups and at least tacit support from the United States. From the moment Biden came in, he lifted the sanctions, and they've gone to a reserve that's one of the highest in their history from having almost none at all. Biden has bankrolled them, ladies and gentlemen. It's a disgrace. This will help in the sense that you don't, war leadership is very delicate, and any dictatorship is delicate, particularly ones where the people have tasted some freedom. Their protests allowed them to, their second group of protests, first group was squelched easily with no words of encouragement from the guy on the Ayatollah side who sent the Ayatollah cash, Barry Obama. But when the second one took place, Trump did everything he could to encourage them. And those were going strong until Obama came in, helped to put, Biden came in, helped to put them down and got them even more money, in this case, by lifting the sanctions. And now they're a very rich country who, if they want to carry out an attack on Israel, they're probably going to have to give an assist to Joe Biden. And they may even still have some of the Obama money left. I mean, they sure killed a lot of Americans with that money. So when we think of what Israel faces, this here, meaning Syria, Lebanon, Hamas, Hezbollah, it's nothing compared to here. And they have done an excellent job of using the resources here as their really stand-ins. And so they've been doing a lot of damage to us. We've been doing none to them. And so it isn't at the crucial point yet, but it's at the point where they've taken the measure of Obama and the measure is zero. And I think they're waiting to see what happens. I think if Trump comes in, you'll see a very, very different situation, and quickly. Rabbi Hirsch is the rabbi of a very, very, what I would regard, and I wish the members of it don't forgive my ignorance to some extent about this. It's the Stephen Wise Free Synagogue. Now, you might be able to tell from the name of it that it is not an Orthodox synagogue, Stephen Wise Free Synagogue. In fact, it probably is very much to the left, and it probably is a synagogue that, and Rabbi Hirsch makes that fairly clear, although there's a little bit more subtlety to it in the article he has in the Wall Street Journal today, that this is, by and large, a very left-wing Democrat congregation. A very, very liberal Jewish congregation. This is in Brooklyn. It isn't that kind of thing. This man is at his wit's end with Biden to the point where he says that there was a long time where liberal Jews in particular accepted the notion that you could be anti-Zionist without being anti-Semitic. But he believes that bridge has been crossed over some time ago. Surely the squad has done that, right? And that anti-Zionism now is 100% anti-Semitism. You want to wipe out Israel, you want to wipe out the Jewish people. It's the same thing. And you can see it and hear it in the language of these protesters. They don't know the difference. They don't even know why they're protesting for the inequities of the Palestinian people. Israel hasn't created the inequities for the Palestinian people. Their leaders have. Their leaders, including Arafat, have gotten enough money to make them into Monte Carlo. And they've gotten a fortune. They've gotten more money than Israel. Except the country is guided very, very strictly by two groups. One, a terrorist group called Hamas, and two, a former terrorist group called Fatah. Fatah will go back to being terrorist if it has to, and does sometimes. But by and large, they're thieves, major, massive, world-class thieves, and they steal every penny they can get their hands on and make their people starve. Hamas is brutally terroristic, as we saw on the 7th, and it's also thieves. And it is a complete fiction, and everyone knows it, that when we give them food and the whole thing, it doesn't go to them. Even the UN organization that does it is largely populated by Hamas and Hamas-leaning people. So Rabbi Hirsch, who I think 4 or 5 years ago would somehow be on the other side of this, says, I'll read the end of it. American politicians who seek the support of the American Jewish community would be well advised to heed these realities, which say, we now realize that in most cases, anti-Zionism constitutes or leads inevitably to anti-Semitism. Michigan won't be the only state that matters in November. And even in Michigan, there are many different constituencies. Ignore American Jews at your own political peril. That's not a Republican. That's not a conservative Jewish person. There isn't a moderate Jewish person. This is a left-wing Jewish organization. Their people are being destroyed. And when that happens, unless you're a Schumer, you stand up. Schumer, I don't know, maybe he's sick and can't be found. Elise Stefanik got a chance to talk to Knesset, and she made it clear America will be there with them until we wipe out Hamas and then beyond. Putin and Xi had a meeting, and apparently they're getting closer and closer due to Biden. And Biden had a meeting with, hopefully, his doctors. Trump keeps growing. His numbers keep growing. He's ahead in states in which the voters in both states overwhelmingly support abortion access. However, Biden is ahead of Trump 52-47 in Arizona, and he's ahead by 9 points in Florida. And it seems like the American electorate can separate those votes. The debate that takes place, I think, is going to have an impact, but I think that we won't know how much of an impact, but it's not going to change the election. The election is going to be a different election, really, because it's an election in which, and this hasn't happened to us in modern times, I guess I guess you'd have to go back to Roosevelt against Taft. We've got two presidents running against each other. Both of them have had a chance to be president. When we usually have these elections, one of them is the president, and the other is telling you what he will do, and you don't know what he is going to do. He may have the best of intentions. He may be telling you the absolute truth. He may be lying to you also. You don't know, and you don't know until he gets in there, can he perform? Because it's a very, very difficult job to perform in, even with the best of intentions. We know that Biden lacks every single characteristic of being a leader and a president. I do not think that Trump is exaggerating one bit when he says he is our worst president in American history. I know he's our most crooked and dishonest because I personally developed those facts myself. But he's also the worst president we've ever had. I don't think any more Americans have ever been killed and other people in the world under a president where there was no war due to his, you pick it, dishonesty, imbecility, ideology, crookedness, or maybe all of those things. We're going to end tonight by saying a prayer. We always say a prayer for the people of Israel, but we showed you a picture of this young lady who died, a 22-year-old young lady whose family is, I am told, in horrible, horrible condition. Her name is Shani Luke, Louk. She was only 22 years old, and she was a tattoo artist, and she was at the festival with all of the young people. There were two pictures of her shown around the 7th, which I guess made her somewhat famous. One was a picture of her at the festival, looking very beautiful and very young and very mist. I don't know how to describe it, but I guess the way you look at a festival if you're young here. He was grabbed by the savages, by the people that Trump quite rightly call animals, and she was put in a truck. Her clothes were taken off, and she was carried off. Here's a smaller picture of it. You don't see much of her body; it's hidden here, which is good because we don't want you to. But those are the animals who took her. These are the same animals that come into the United States now, or at least a large number of them, because we don't know who they are. There's no way the government can tell me they don't come in, because we have 1.7 million gotaways. Then we got 2-3 million we never saw. They also may be among the ones that we vet, but we don't vet. They're taking her away in a truck. And they sent her body back the other day with 2 other very, very brave Israelis. Emmett Buskilla, who was a fashion stylist and amateur cook, and Itzik Gertner, also a very young man. Both of them, all 3 of them, were kidnapped and then murdered. And of course, the animals of Hamas, the animals of Palestine, had the indecency of offering 7 hostages back to the Israelis for 2,000 Palestinians. And they then, at the very, very end, changed the document to say, living or dead. In other words, they might have sent these bodies back as part of an exchange but these bodies were obtained in a different way, and they're back. And yesterday, the funeral for Shani took place in Israel, and she's now at eternal rest. And we pray for her. We pray for the others. We pray for the Americans that are among them, if they are still alive. And I don't know, do we pray for our president to somehow, some way do something about it? He has no interest at all in these hostages. Certainly no interest in the American hostages. In all this time, what are the 235 days? How often does he mention them? He's actually looked at his watch more than he's mentioned them. All he does with the ones that come back, based on people he gets killed, is seem to be completely bored. Now, is that a product of his dementia? I don't know. But he certainly is not fit to be president of the United States on any grounds. And why? The press covers up for him. When it's their America also, I will never understand. All I will do is fight against it with every breath that I have, no matter what they do to me. And I'm proud that I'm doing it. I'm proud that I walked away from a place that wanted me to never talk about the 2020 election, because I believe that it is one of the 4 or 5 most important issues facing the reestablishment of a Democrat and legal government in America, which we do not have today. So, you remember Shani Soul as representative of the Americans and the Israelis, and the combination of both that lost their lives that day. Remember all of the Israeli people that are under attack right now, all of the American people of the world. save us from the evils of communism, as dear Jesus, your mother came and told us that if we prayed, you would. And remember this country that's dedicated to you. The non-believers may have ripped it away, but there are those of us that still believe that all these rights we have came from you, God. So God bless America. Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,